I used to believe that the worst kind of heartbreak came from the moment someone leaves you. But no, the worst kind comes from the moment you realize they were never really yours. That everything you clung to was a perfect, practiced performance. A lie wearing your favorite shape. Ryan had that smile. Soft enough to feel like safety, sharp enough to be dangerous if I ever looked too closely. And of course, I didn't. I let him blind me. I wanted to be blinded. We met in the most cliché way possible: coffee run, spilled drink, awkward laughter, handwritten number on a napkin like some cheesy romance movie. I remember thinking the universe was finally giving me a break. A good man. A stable man. A man who looked at me like I was the only one in the room. God, I was stupid. Everything started so beautifully. Movie nights snuggled beneath worn-out blankets. Slow kisses that tasted like caramel lattes and soft promises. Him brushing my hair back and calling me my lily like I was delicate and rare. I let myself fall. No, I threw myself off the cliff, arms wide open, eyes closed. And then there was her. Sienna appeared like she belonged in his life more than I ever could. Long legs, perfect curls, laugh that sounded like she practiced it in the mirror. She was his best friend since childhood. Oh, and don't worry, babe, she's like a sister. The way she hugged him told a very different story. Sisters don't touch like that, fingers lingering, chin tucked on his shoulder like she owned it. But whenever I asked, Ryan would kiss my forehead and say, "You're overthinking again, Lily. Trust me, okay?" And I wanted to. I needed to. Because if I couldn't trust him, then what did I have left? I wasn't going to be the clingy, jealous girlfriend. I wasn't going to give him a reason to roll his eyes and call me dramatic. So I swallowed the discomfort, forced the smile, and told myself, she's just a friend. Just a friend who FaceTimed him at 2 a.m. Just a friend who walked straight into his apartment with her own spare key. Just a friend who knew every intimate detail about him before I did. Once, I tried to bring it up again, gently, carefully, and he got angry. Not loud angry. Worse. Disappointed angry. "I thought you were better than this." That sentence dug into me like a fishhook. So I started shrinking. Laughing less. Asking less. Smiling more, even when I could feel my heart cracking like thin glass. I changed the subject when she came up. I pretended not to notice when he texted her in the middle of our dates. I made myself so low maintenance I barely existed. Every red flag waved in my face like a warning banner, but I told myself I was paranoid. I told myself love required sacrifice. I told myself I was enough for him, even when he kept proving that I wasn't. And the worst part? He made me believe that any doubt I felt was a flaw in me, not in him. Looking back now, I want to grab my past self and shake her. Tell her to run, to save herself while she still could. But she wouldn't have listened. She was too busy falling deeper into a dream she thought was real. A perfect lie wrapped in warm hands and soft kisses. And I was already halfway gone. It happened on a boring Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day where nothing is supposed to change your life. I was scrolling through my phone, half watching some cooking show, waiting for Ryan to come home. Just passing time. Just existing. Then I saw her. Not Sienna, the best friend. Not Sienna, the clingy shoulder hugger. No, Sienna, the adult star, sprawled across a massive billboard on social media. Top Creator of the Year, Sienna Hart. Same face. Same smirk. Same woman who called my boyfriend Ree like she had earned the shortcut to his heart. My chest tightened. I clicked her profile. Millions of followers, glossy photos, videos with thumbnails I wished I could unsee. Every comment worshipping her like a goddess. Perfect. Untouchable. Famous. My mouth went dry. I stared at the screen too long, trying to convince myself there were two identical Siennas in the world who both happened to know my boyfriend since childhood. But reality is never that kind. When Ryan finally came home, I was shaking, not angry yet, just scared. Scared of what this meant. Scared of how deeply I already knew the truth. "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice came out small, like a child asking for permission to feel hurt. "Why didn't you tell me Sienna was, you know?" He paused. A flicker, one split second where the mask slipped. But then he leaned against the counter, sighed dramatically, and gave me that disappointed teacher look. "Seriously? That's what this is about. I hated how quickly shame flooded me. Like I'd done something wrong. You made me look stupid, I whispered. I've been around her this whole time. And what, Lily? You think I'm cheating? You think she wants me? She's way out of my league. Don't be pathetic. Pathetic. The word landed like a punch. He turned everything upside down in seconds. Suddenly, I was the problem. My insecurity. My jealousy. My childish imagination. He kept talking, voice sharp like he was trimming away every bit of confidence I had left. You should be proud of her success instead of stalking her online like a creep. I hadn't even known about her 5 minutes ago. He walked away, leaving me standing there, a phone still glowing in my hand like a weapon that backfired. I stared at my reflection in the black screen, mascara smudged, lips trembling. Who was I compared to her? Ordinary. Forgettable. Small. Later that night, I heard him laughing on the phone with her in the living room. Whisper laughing. The kind of laughter you only share with someone you want to undress. I lay in our bed, pillow over my ears, tears slipping into my hair because I didn't want the walls to hear how weak I had become. Every boundary I had was suddenly erased. She wasn't like a sister. She wasn't just a friend. She was a fantasy, his fantasy in the flesh. And I was, what? A placeholder? A warm body to keep the bed from feeling empty? I tried to sleep, but my mind tortured me. Every giggle, every soft good night he gave her before he came to bed, all of it told me one undeniable truth. The mask had slipped. The lie was cracking. And I was the only one still pretending not to see it. There's a moment in every dying relationship where the truth stops hiding. Mine came wrapped in the glow of a screen. Ryan was asleep, sprawled across the bed like someone who owned peace. His phone buzzed once, twice, then again. I told myself not to look. But pain has a way of guiding hands you swear you control. I picked up his phone. A preview notification flashed. Sienna kiss mark. Wish you were in my bed instead. My heart slammed against my ribs. My vision blurred. I opened the message thread with trembling fingers. There they were, hundreds of messages. Flirty. Intimate. And not new. Weeks. Months. Naked photos. Voice notes. Plans to sneak away when I wasn't around. At the very bottom. Ryan, soon, baby. I just have to figure out how to break it off with her. Her. Me. Like I was just a chore he hadn't checked off yet. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd be sick. Tears came violent and hot, a flood I couldn't control. I dropped the phone on the bed like it burned. But Ryan's eyes snapped open instantly. Guilty people wake fast. What the hell are you doing? He spat, grabbing his phone. I tried to speak, a broken gasp was all I got out. How long? He didn't answer. He didn't deny it. He didn't even look sorry. He smirked. You went through my phone. You're crazy, he said, shoving his belongings into a bag. It wasn't working anyway. Just like that. No apology. No regret. Just tossing us away like trash he forgot to take out last night. I stood small in the doorway as he pulled on his jacket. He stopped with his hand on the doorknob. Sienna makes me feel alive, he said simply. You don't. The knife twisted. He walked out, slamming the door like final punctuation. I collapsed, sobbing into the floor like the wood could absorb my shame. I stayed there until morning. Hours later, my phone buzzed. A message from Sienna's account. Curious, I opened it. A video loaded. Her lips on his neck. His hands grabbing her like she was the only oxygen he needed. Both of them laughing. Laughing at me. Over the footage, she added text. You never stood a chance, sweetheart kiss mark. I let out a sound that wasn't human, a wounded, feral cry. Everything inside me shattered into pieces too small to pick up. My world became one truth. I wasn't enough. Not pretty enough. Not exciting enough. Not worth choosing. I threw my phone across the room, but it didn't help. It couldn't silence the voice screaming inside me. He loved her. He never loved me. I was just the practice version. The betrayal wasn't just in the cheating, it was in how easy it was for him to leave. As if loving me was the mistake he finally corrected. I thought heartbreak would feel poetic or cinematic, but it was just ugly. So ugly I couldn't recognize myself anymore. I thought heartbreak hurt the most on the day it happens. Turns out, that's just the warm-up. The real pain settles in slowly, a rot beneath the ribs that spreads every time you breathe. After Ryan left, everything around me reminded me of him. The half-empty shampoo bottle in the shower. His stupid hoodie on the couch. The smell of his cologne trapped in the fabric of our pillows like a ghost refusing to leave. I tried deleting him. I tried deleting them. But obsession is a parasite. Once it gets inside, it feeds. Every night, I scrolled through Sienna's posts like a masochist. Photos of her on yachts, in silk lingerie, glowing under stage lights. Thousands of thirsty comments praising her like she was made of gold. She wasn't human, she was a fantasy. And I was just the before picture. My thoughts twisted into something ugly. Maybe if I looked like her, maybe if I acted like her, maybe then he would have wanted me. It started with smaller things, more makeup, riskier clothes, forcing confidence I didn't have. But no matter what I did, my reflection always looked like a discount version of someone he chose over me. One drunken night, after hours of crying over photos of them together, her legs wrapped around him like he belonged there, I made the call. A studio. Amateur shoots. A test session. The photographer said I had a soft innocence that sells. I smiled like that was a compliment. Soon, men online were saying things like, "She looks like a good girl trying to be bad. Bet she's easy to break. Poor thing thinks she's a star." Thousands of eyes. Not one of them seeing me. But the money rolled in. And attention is a drug one I was starving for. I started needing actual drugs too, to numb the way my stomach turned before shoots. Little pills to pull me out of my body, so I didn't have to feel their hands, their eyes, their judgment. The high quieted the heartbreak briefly. Then the crash reminded me I was slowly dying. Nights blurred into each other. I forgot to eat. Forgot to call my mom back. Forgot who I had ever been before all this. And through it all, I still kept checking on Ryan and Sienna like a wound I refused to let heal. The more they seemed to shine, the more I faded. One night, alone in my bathroom with mascara smeared like bruises, I swallowed too many pills. I didn't count them. Didn't care to. The room spun. My heart slammed erratically. I remember gripping the sink for balance, sliding to the floor as darkness clawed at my vision. For a moment, I welcomed it. I wanted the pain to stop. I wanted me to stop. But someone, neighbor, friend, God, I still don't know, found me. Called an ambulance. Saved me. They strapped tubes into my arms, voices blurry and urgent. I heard one nurse whisper, "She's so young. Young. Broken. Pathetic." A punchline in someone else's love story. When I finally woke up, I wasn't relieved to be alive. I was furious. Because death felt like the only escape I had left. And even that was taken from me. Waking up in rehab felt like waking up inside a life I didn't remember choosing. White walls. Sterile smell. Smiling staff who looked at me like I was fragile glass. They spoke softly, like loud voices might shatter me into dust they'd have to sweep up later. They weren't wrong. I spent the first days silent, answering every question with a shrug or a nod. The therapists called it protective detachment. I called it not giving a damn. Because surviving wasn't something I wanted, it was something that happened to me. The group sessions were filled with people talking about second chances. Fresh starts. Gratitude. I wanted to scream at them. Gratitude for what? For being alive when your heart is dead? For breathing through pain that doesn't stop? Then, there was Michael. He didn't talk much either, at least, not at first. He sat in the corner of every session, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, quiet eyes scanning the room like he was always bracing for bad news. His knuckles were scarred. His voice, when he finally spoke, was soft but scraped raw. He'd been here 8 months. Almost died too. His best friend hadn't been so lucky, overdose, saved just in time. He talked about survivor's guilt, the kind that crawls into your chest and tells you every morning that you shouldn't be here. His honesty made the room hold its breath. Someone asked him why he kept trying. He stared at his trembling hands for a long moment and said, "Because I don't want to die before I learn how to live." It was the first thing anyone said in that place that didn't sound like a lie. Sometimes we sat together in silence outside after meetings. Cold air, awkward company, somehow comforting. It started with small things. He offered me his extra granola bar. I told him the sky looked like it was bruising. He laughed quietly, like he hadn't used that sound in a while. Days turned into weeks. We weren't friends yet, not really. More like two ghosts orbiting the same empty space. But he noticed things. When my hands shook, he pretended not to see it. When I cried without sound, he slid a tissue near me without looking. When I blamed myself for everything, the cheating, the downfall, he finally turned to me and said, "Anyone can break. The real strength is choosing to rebuild." I didn't believe him, but I wanted to. Nights were harder, nightmares of Ryan and Sienna laughing while I drowned in drugs and shame. Sometimes I would wake up gasping, ripping at sheets tangled around me like restraints. And there he'd be sitting in the chair across from his door, keeping his own monsters awake. He'd just nod at me, and I'd nod back. A silent agreement. We weren't alone in the dark. Rehab didn't erase the pain. It didn't magically fix me, but it gave the pain a place to go besides inward. By the end of the month, I could say my name out loud again without crying. I could look in the mirror and see a person, not a mistake. And maybe life wasn't completely done with me yet. Michael got discharged first. He hugged me, awkward, unsure, warm, and said, "I'll come check on you, if you want me to." I didn't trust promises anymore. But for some reason, I nodded. Because for the first time in forever, I wanted someone to stay. Rehab was a cage I never wanted to leave, and part of me almost didn't. The walls were white, sterile, suffocating, but safe. At least here, no one was laughing at me behind a screen. No one was mocking me online. No one was Ryan, smiling in some photo with Sienna while my chest tore itself apart. Michael came to see me the first week. He didn't storm in with some cheesy "you'll be fine" bravado. He sat in the corner of the common room, careful not to crowd me. Just a quiet presence, leaning back, hands resting on his knees, observing without judgment. That first visit, he brought me a small notebook. Just a notebook, blank, like he was saying, "Start here if you want." Over the following weekends, he came again. We'd walk around the hospital grounds when the air was crisp, talking quietly. At first, he spoke sparingly. Just updates, how the rehab cafeteria had changed the menu, that his recovery exercises were getting easier, that he'd finally learned to cook scrambled eggs without burning them. Silly, trivial things, but somehow, sharing these normal, mundane pieces of life made the world feel less heavy. I started telling him about my plans too. About quitting the adult industry. About how I didn't even recognize myself anymore. He didn't judge me. He didn't recoil. He just listened. Occasionally, he'd nod. Sometimes he'd laugh softly, like the sound had been locked inside him for months and finally found a way out. And each weekend, his visits got a little longer. We ate cafeteria lunches together. He told me about his past, his best friend who had committed suicide. He tried to overdose cause he wasn't there for him, and it weighed down on him. I told him about Ryan, about Sienna, about the spiral that nearly killed me. He just let me speak, sometimes squeezing my hand in solidarity. By the last week of rehab, he was laughing more easily, talking to staff, joking quietly with other patients. He had always been quiet, antisocial when I first met him, but that silence was becoming choice, not fear. He looked healthier, more confident in his own skin, fully present. I couldn't help but notice, slowly, subtly, he was the kind of person who could carry the weight of normal life without breaking. And I trusted him. It was at this time I quit my old job officially while still in rehab. My manager called to confirm, clearly curious why I was leaving so suddenly, but I didn't care. I was leaving the only part of my life that tied me to that world, to the version of me that nearly died chasing attention from someone who didn't care. It was terrifying. But Michael encouraged me quietly every weekend. "You're doing the right thing," he said once, brushing a strand of hair from my face when I broke down crying about the shame. "Why don't you judge me?" I asked, crying uncontrollably on his lap. Very softly he answered, "'Cause we all make mistakes. And what matters is not perfection but trying to chase better. trying to be better. All I see is a girl trying her best to be better, and I can't help be inspired and attracted to that. Those words hit me like a truck. I felt comforted. I felt shy. I blushed and couldn't bring myself to look at him and buried my head in his arms. I could hear his heart beating fast. He could feel my shyness after saying that. I think we both brushed off that moment, but that felt like a pivotal moment between us. When I was finally discharged, Michael came to pick me up. He had a backpack slung over one shoulder, sneakers scuffed from the walk, and a big fat grin on his face. "Hey," he said simply, nodding at me. No awkward tension. No pity. Just recognition. "Hey," I murmured, trying to keep my voice steady. The streets of the city felt too loud. Too fast. Too alive for someone like me. "Are you ready for your first day out of rehab?" he asked, grinning like this wasn't some life-or-death experiment, but just a regular morning. I told him about my plan, almost sheepishly. I wanted to start a small flower shop. Something tangible. Something beautiful. Something that smelled like life instead of desperation. He listened intently, nodding, asking questions that showed he actually cared, not just about the plan, but about me. He walked beside me as I signed the lease for a tiny space in the quieter part of the city. He carried my bags, joked with the landlord, smiled at strangers passing by, and I watched him. The first week, he came every day. Sometimes we arranged the flowers together. Sometimes he just watched me work, leaning on the counter, hands in his pockets, laughing at my over-the-top complaints when a bloom refused to stand straight. He made the shop feel alive, like more than just a space where I sold petals. It felt like a safe place. For the first time in months, I could sit without trembling. We went out for coffee one afternoon. Sunlight spilled over the table, and he leaned back, relaxed, full of stories about his own journey. He smiled, the easy kind of smile that makes people believe there's hope in the world. I couldn't help but feel drawn to him, not because he was perfect, but because he was real, fully human, fully healed in a way I could aspire to. Then, one quiet evening, as I arranged a bouquet of daisies and sunflowers for a delivery, he nudged me gently. "Sit down," he said, grinning, playful but not patronizing. I did. And he leaned closer, eyes meeting mine in a way that made my heart thump too fast, too hard. Clumsy, awkward, hesitant, but warm. Our lips met. Just a kiss at first, uncertain, fumbling. Neither of us perfect. Neither of us polished. It felt like a feeling of longing, but not only longing, but I had longed for him. Michael. I had finally realized. I had completely fallen for this man. We slowly stopped and pulled back. Each of us too shy to look at each other, and overwhelmed with emotions. But somebody had to do it. So I said, my voice shaking, "Michael." He broke me off before I could continue. And he looked into my straight eyes, mustering up all the courage he got to say, "Hey, these last few months that I have known you have been some of the best months of my life. I'd be a fool to ignore what I feel and what you make me feel. With that being said, I have to tell you that I have feelings for you, Lily. Do you feel the same? Took you long enough." I told him, and I let out a sigh of relief as I sunk into his arms.